Hey everyone, Tom here, and today we are going to get into some information about tropical color palettes. This is something that sometimes people trip over when they're thinking, I've got some really cool ideas about what kind of colors I want to use in a room. But then when you go to the home improvement store or your local paint store and you start looking at the endless number of paint chips there, you're like, well, I'm not really finding the colors that I envisioned. Or suddenly, because there's so many choices there, you start to get like totally overwhelmed. And you're like, well, what I had in my head isn't lining up with what I'm finding here on these chips. Or, maybe I should go with that color or a combination of colors. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. How many colors should I even use? Should it just be one? Should it be two or three or four? Or, there's the whole concept of your primary colors, your secondary colors, and then you get into your accent colors. But what you need to do, first of all, is have your color palette nailed down so you at least have some colors to choose from. And the wonderful thing about that is it blocks out everything else. So, what you want to do when you're choosing your colors is just to eliminate all of the visual noise because that's what it is. So, what I really recommend is you go online. There are now some awesome color palette creating tools, and there's two in particular that I really like. One of them is colorpalette.org because it will show you some pre-made color palettes depending on what it is you're searching for. So if you go in and you type in tropical beach or tropical resort, it will come up with some color combinations that you would see at a tropical resort or at a really cool location somewhere if you're traveling. But another one that I really like is coolers.co. And the reason I really like them is because you can create your own color palettes very easily with it. And they do have a free version out there. If you are somebody who's very good with color already and you're very good at imagining what certain things would look like together and how they would work, then yeah, you could probably put together a nice color palette pretty quickly. But for those of you out there who do struggle with color and who just want to really put some thought and some time into this, which is actually what I recommend that you do, if you've never really worked with color before, beyond just painting a generic color in a bedroom or a living room, you want to be choosy. You want to put some thought into this because colors are going to look different at home versus at the store on a paint chip. And when you do use these online tools, you do have to remember that with screen resolutions, colors just look different. So depending on the type of PC you're using or the laptop, that really is going to make a difference. If you are brave enough to use your mobile phone, go ahead and do that. Many of those have some great screen resolutions too. I'm not a fan of it because it's just too small. Maybe it's because I'm older, but I like just to have the big things in front of me, like on my desktop PC, where I have my two big fat screens right here, which really help me. So I do, again, point out screen resolutions because colors are not identical. And we're going to get into actual color codes here, something called a HEX code, which I'll explain in just a minute. That way, if you can narrow down your color to the specific HEX code, that is the code that identifies that particular color. And then it doesn't matter whether you're at the paint store, whether you're on your laptop, whether you're on your phone. This is the color that I really like. I want to match it up with some other colors that go really well together. And when you've got your 3 or 4 or even 5 HEX codes together, then you know you can't go wrong. The only other little caveat I'll put on that is, again, just remember that when you actually buy paint, it's going to look different coming out of the can when it's wet. Then afterwards, when you get it up on your walls or wherever you're applying it, it's going to look different when it dries. Paint does darken as it dries, depending on the color, depending on the shade, and then depending on the lighting that you have in your room. And we've got a whole lot of information about this in the Tropical Home Transformation Guide, which I will have a link to at the end of this video. You are going to be preventing some mistakes and you will be able to make sure that you nail your colors perfectly. So let's go ahead and get into HEX codes. And what I'm going to do is link to a really nice article that explains it in detail because it goes beyond the scope of this video here. And it really does go into some heavy duty detail for those of you who are interested, but it's a good thing to know. So what hex code means is actually hexadecimal color code. What I'm going to do, so I don't screw this up, is I'm going to go ahead and read a clip from the website here. It says, the hexadecimal system is a numeric system that uses 16 digits from 0 to 9 with the letters A through F included. These represent values. And in the world of colors, a hex code consists of a hashtag followed by 6 alphanumeric characters that designate the intensity of red, green, and blue. These are your RGB components in color. And by varying these values from 00, which is very minimum intensity, to FF, which is maximum intensity, you can get an unlimited range of colors. And really, if you use anything online, like I use Microsoft Word, in there, if you're using the font color, you can choose your custom colors. All of the hex codes are in there. In PowerPoint, it's the same thing. It's virtually in anything where you can go ahead and choose your color. So I use Learn Worlds for the tropical design program that I have. And in there, you can custom color whatever you want. What's really nice is I was able to use the 3 hex codes for our logo here at Cerulean Bay. The blue that you see, the yellow and the green, I have the hex codes for those. And it's just really nice because then you can carry those colors through the world of branding. If you're doing any kind of branding, you can make sure that everything is using your branded colors. So having said that, what you can do is upload an image in some of these tools, and it'll go ahead and identify a lot of the hex codes that are in there, which is really cool. What I'm going to do is show you actually some samples of just a couple quick things that I want to share with you. Because again, the point of this video is to help you create your own custom color palettes. So that way you're not overwhelmed when you go to the home improvement store or wherever you happen to go to buy paint. You can go in ready with your hex code. And these are not colors that you are inventing. They are already out there. You can go ahead and give it to the person there at the paint store and say, I want paint in these colors right here. You don't even have to bother with the paint chips. So let's go ahead and get into some of these examples. So this here is the image picker tool from coolers.co. And in here, you can go ahead and browse an image from your PC or wherever you might have it stored, upload it into here. This is actually an image of an atoll out near the Maldive Islands off the coast of India there in the Indian Ocean. And in here, you could see that it's just kind of, I don't want to call it a standard picture because I absolutely love it, but this could be just kind of a generic tropical picture for a lot of people, and it might not be the most exciting thing that you would think you could use for a different color palette. Some people might even find it boring maybe, but when you get into just looking at the initial color palette that it created here on its own using these little circles, you can go ahead and move these around. Like if you want to try and lighten up this green, is it this one right here? Actually, it is. You can go ahead and move this around. And if you notice inside of the circle, different shades come up in these tiny little squares. And if you find one that you like maybe this one right here, go ahead and let go of it. And when you go ahead and click on it, you'll go ahead and see there that you have the hex code beginning with the number 6. And you can do this for each of the colors. Just go ahead and move the circles as you see. If you want something that maybe is a little bit of a darker blue out here, you can get out here and find, ooh, that really cool cerulean blue, something like that. Go ahead and then it should go ahead and generate your little hex code. There's the code right there, starting with the 0. So you can go ahead and create what you want. If you've got too many blues going on, you want to get in here maybe to a little bit of the sand, not so office, hospital, bright white, but maybe just something a little bit in the world of off-whites here. You can go and find all kinds of stuff with hints of grays. And it's just really, really a cool tool. And then using that picture from the atoll in the Maldives, this is the color palette that I chose, and I just named it here, Tropical Atoll, but you've got all of the hex codes here that you can go ahead and take to the paint store. And then from here, let's go ahead and check out another example. Here's another image that I uploaded. This is actually taken from the Toko Riki Resort in Fiji. And this is an outdoor patio area of a bure there. Bure being the Fijian word for traditional housing. So I just love how they do everything in the really high thatched roof style and such. Got your own little private plunge pool. But yes, very, very cool place to stay. And this picture is nice because it's very tropical, but it doesn't really pop with a lot of bold color. So this is where, when you're looking for tropical inspiration, not everything has to have a bunch of really bold reds and yellows and oranges and purples and things like this. You can go with something something that's actually on the muted side, which this is what it is. I mean, when you look at all the green in here, it's actually pretty muted. There's nothing really just screaming at you in a very vibrant green color. And you can see that this here is the instant generated color palette. To me, it's not very exciting. I'm not really into these darker colors here, but this is where you just move your little circles around here and you just start to kind of create your own little thing. Maybe try to find something that's a little bit in the brighter green world. And as you just kind of move about here and see, not a lot there. I see some up here, maybe up in the tree. And then how about we bring in some blue from the sky up in here? You can go ahead and bring in, this is a great example of shading when you get into the whites and creams and neutrals. If you're in the sun, you can see how bright it gets over here with this circle. And then you come underneath here in the covered area and basically the same color. This building is painted in the same color, but you can see just how different it is when you're exposed to the sun and when you're in the shade. But that's a nice example. And then here we've got this little circle. Let's try and grab something from the pool maybe. This is where, that's just kind of like a nice deep color that you'll see from the plunge pool. Another cool example here. And then if you really like what you have, you can just go ahead and export it. And let's go ahead and pull that up. And this is the color palette that I was able to come up with from the Fijian Beret patio. So this is a very usable palette. There's a lot that you could do with this. If you were doing like a nice family room or a living room, you bring in these colors and some paint colors, artwork, and then just some really nice accents. You're going to have a really awesome tropical retreat going on. And if you really like some color, that's where you could start bringing in a little bit more of those oranges and reds in some artwork, in some decor pieces, and you'd have a really cool place to hang out. So I think I've got one more example for you here. Let's go ahead and pull that up. And this is actually a really cool example. This is taken from the Nayara Springs Resort in Costa Rica. And this is, I say, a good example because if you were staying at a place like this, this is something most people would take a picture of. You get there and you go outside and you've got this awesome wood-covered patio with a beautiful wood flooring, and it's just surrounded by tropical greenery, totally private, your own private plunge pool. This is something that a lot of people are snapping pictures of. But where it gets tricky is when you get home and then you're starting to tell people, hey, you know, this place was so cool and it had this and it had that. And, you know, when people try to get you to narrow down specifically what the coolest part about it, what was it that you really loved? It's kind of hard to say because there is a lot going on in this picture, which makes the whole scene something that you want to bring home. Well, obviously, that's not possible to do. The best you can do is in color, in artwork, anything that's going to kind of recreate this vibe that you see here. Well, when you get into the colors, you can see what it was that the system went ahead and chose here. Obviously, this is going to need a little bit of work, but there's a lot going on in this image for colors. So this is where I recommend that people really take time. And if you are in a place like this, or you come across a place like this online and you just fall in love with the picture, it's on your bucket list, you're going to go there one day, this is where you got to spend some time and really try and nail the vibe right. Is it the lighter colors you like? Is it the darker colors? If so, which ones speak to you the most? Is it the orange here on the bench? Is it the red in the cordyline plants here, which are off of the side of the pool? What about the sky? You have blues up here, but what about the blues in the water? There's just so much going on, especially then you get into the different wood tones here, which are amazing. But these can be very, very dark. If we just go ahead and drag this little circle here and you start getting up into the wood, you can just start seeing, you know, how much it changes in this center sample there. And maybe going down the post here, you're getting into a lot of heavy browns, a lot of heavy tans, things that are going to be very, very dark on your walls at home. So what I recommend doing with something like this, as you get down here onto the flooring, well, you've got a couple good wall colors in here, is if you've got beautiful wood flooring at home, show it off. Make sure that it's clean, it's in great shape, and you just really don't have it covered up with a lot of rugs and things like this. If you have beautiful wood furnishings, which really fit that tropical motif, bring those out if they're not already in the space And then if you've got any other way to show off wood, whether it's in beautiful wood carvings, architectural detailing, anything else that might be there, use those to really have these browns and other wood tones speak to you. Because again, when you start putting things like this on the wall, these colors, it's very heavy, and the dark colors are going to shrink the space. It's going to not give you what you are seeing here in this image, that vibe that you're trying to recreate. And it's almost kind of the same thing going with the greens here too, because you've got some really heavy, darker greens when you get down here into the shadows versus the lighter ones that are going to be up in here. So I really encourage everybody to get on this site here. Again, it's Coolors, COOLORS.co. Try it. There's other tools online too. Maybe there's one that you're already familiar with that you really like. And just upload an image and really see how it speaks to you. There's just really a lot that you can do with this. So when I was playing around with this picture, I actually came up with a color palette that looks like this. Go ahead and pull that up here. So this is the color palette that I was able to come up with, which I think would be a lot of fun to work with. And then again, this is where I would really bring in those woods in either wood flooring. If you don't have wood flooring, some really good wood furnishings, wooden beams in a ceiling, or again, just wooden artwork, wall art that's maybe framed in beautiful tropical looking wood, any way that you can bring those wood tones in. So yeah, that is what you can do with color palettes online. It's just a lot of fun. I love it. So I'm hoping this little tutorial in tropical color palettes was helpful, but this is where, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this and making some big, huge video about it, because at the end of the day, you've got to get on one of these sites and just try it yourself. And these are things that you just have to play with. One thing I don't want you to do is overthink this, because there is no such thing as the perfect color palette at the end of the day. So don't put too much pressure on yourself, because again, what's going to look visually awesome on your screen is going to look slightly different when you get it home in the paint cans, and then slightly different again once you get it up on your walls, but you're going to be close enough. And again, because you will have that hex code for each color, the color is the same no matter what. It's just your surrounding conditions are what's going to change how that color is looking for you. So with that, what I'd love for you guys to do is go ahead and click on the link in the notes below so you can go ahead and check out the tropical design program that we have. And we've also got a new newsletter out called the Cabana Lounge. You can go ahead and subscribe to that. It's free all the time. And if you love it, wonderful. If it's not really for you, you can unsubscribe at any time. No worries at all. And we hope that you do like it. We hope that you'll share it. But I've got a link to that below too. So go ahead, click on those things, like this video. And if you've gotten to know us a little bit more, go ahead and subscribe, because we've got a lot more cool content coming your way. Thanks again for joining, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.